Hi, my name is Kaylie Roberts. I live in Fox Point. I've been fortunate to work with both John and Anthony on the coalition. Nick has been at one or two meetings I've been at simultaneously. My question it's really for the three of them, but if I have to pick one, I will.
No, you can do that as well.
Okay, because I think many of us are aware that our representatives in the city council have been somewhat marginalized. Fox Point, College Hill are looked at as being quite different than some of the other neighborhoods. And so both knowing that you'll be walking into a situation where there are 14 existing council people, but that in a fairly short time that will change dramatically. How do you foresee bringing some of the work we've done, for example, in the coalition, to the city council?
And who would you like to start on that?
You know, whoever really wants to raise their hand and start.
I can start.
Okay, John.
As the founder of the coalition, I think it was really about identifying common overlapping issues. When we think about the issues that our city is dealing with, these are broad issues. Of course, each and every one of us are going to be dealing with our constituents first. That's Ward 1 residents. That's where we're going to assert most of our efforts. And we ought to do that because we're serving you as our constituents. And I think there were a lot of things that were mentioned today that are really, I would say, eyebrow raising. I think we have heard on this stage that the only way out is development. And we have to take a really nuanced approach to that. I think we have to work with our neighborhood partners to figure out if that's truly what we want. And what that means is we support smart development. I'm 100% in favor of development that community wants. And smart development is actually going to raise enough municipal revenues that we can put back into our public schools. So we do need that kind of investment in our city, and we have to encourage that investment in our city. We've talked about things like TSAs, for example. And TSAs are incredibly important to maintain our competitiveness in this market, especially when you've got places like Connecticut and Massachusetts also giving out TSAs. But we have to look at that in a very pragmatic and nuanced way.
Okay, John, quick answers or I'm going to do the hook, okay? So couple
Sure.
3 minutes.
But essentially what I'm getting at is we have to study these issues. And in order for us to study these issues, we have to sit down with people who are very different than us. And that means working across the aisle to trying to get those things done. And then, you know, when we think about property taxation and transparency and predictability, those have been issues that I've been fighting for. I encourage everyone, in fact, to go to john4ward1.com. Our entire policy platform is written out. And if you look at the press, and if you look at what we've been able to do in the last couple years, I can say definitively that I've been working for Ward 1 residents to accomplish some of the things that neighbors have actually been bringing to the forefront.
Okay.
And I think we ought to continue to do that work.
Thanks. Nick.
So, the problem I think the question was getting at was that the wards are very different. They have distinct needs, and perhaps the east side and downtown get singled out as being especially disparate than the rest of the city. And in that realm, the thing that comes to mind first and foremost is has to do with property taxes, property tax reform. This past council, this past year, there was an attempt at an atrocious reform in the form of tiered taxation, which is it's something that I firmly stand against, and I will do everything in my power to stop. For starters, it is pitting neighborhoods against each other, which is absolutely not the way to build consensus. Second, it penalizes residents on the east side and downtown just for being in their district. And it's all based on a false logic that because perhaps there's somebody in the east side that could afford to pay more taxes, that magically the entire east side can pay more taxes, completely ignoring the fact that we have a lot of retirees and people on fixed income. Additionally, they try to do that reform based on the worst way you could possibly derive a public policy, which is to pick a single anecdote and then think it reflects the entire phenomenon. That is not how you select good policy. So when I was in grad school, both times, there's a lot of attention paid on how you make, how does it become to the things that we know, how do you use scientific methodology to study the things that you want to change, and then how do you select the best thing. So the good news is, Providence is not the only city that is facing anything of the crises we're facing, whether it's a tax shortfall, whether it's legacy debt, whether it's how do we create a 21st century economy in the shadow of deindustrialization. So the thing to do is to look to see what's worked elsewhere, and then to consult as big a sample. So I think that if you make the case in that light, that look, this is not really about neighborhoods pitting against each other, it shouldn't be about that, and you make a solid case, you make it about methodology, that could be the way forward.
Thanks, Nick. And
So I don't think that we are all that different. I don't think that the people in Ward 1, in downtown, in Fox Point, and on the east side are all that different in what they really want. I think what it is we have some sections of our ward that appear different and that are said to be different, and that this is what they're like and what they want. The only way I'm going to find out what all of Ward 1 wants is just try to speak to all of Ward 1 and decide that all of Ward 1 wants the same thing. There are some things that have to be the same. I go back to the part that if we want to address the issues in Fox Point, in downtown, and in the Upper East Side area near Wayland Square, I have to make sure that we have the money to address what's needed to be brought to these parts of the ward. So the economic engine, development is part of it, so I do believe that development is necessary. But I think the economic engine of the small businesses that are here can be the driving force. We have to encourage them. We have to have people come here and want to do business here. And right now they don't feel that way. And people wanting to do business here will increase the money coming in here. And without the money, I don't think we can address as many of the issues as we have to. I look at this from the small business point of view. I want something done. You are going to be my patrons, okay? I'm going to be the manager of the business, and the business is City Hall, the business is the City Council. I have to listen to what my patrons want. And I want a lot of patrons to come into this business. And I want to make sure I give my patrons everything they need. So what do I have to do? I can't charge in as a newly elected city council person. I have to learn, and I have to build these relationships like I've built, and I have to learn to make sure that the other city council people that I do need to understand what the needs of my wards are, while they're concerned with their wards, that we can work together to attain all of them. For everyone's ward, for everyone's person, for every different part of the ward, however different we think it is. So that's the approach I'll take, is always unifying, getting a consensus, and relationship building. That's the approach I think is going to make the changes needed, whatever they are, in whatever part of the ward that we're speaking about.